Welcome to the podcast. Today my guest is Bil Bilson. And Bill played drums for the Sunnyboys and has done a whole bunch of other stuff as well.
A few things here and there.
Both you and I grew up in Kingscliff.
Yes.
That's our connection.
Yes, indeed.
And I used to catch the school bus and see you guys on the school bus with the Oxley brothers when I was quite a bit younger.
Yeah, I was going to say Grom.
I was a young grommet. Yeah, I was a young grommet at one point in my life.
Yeah. To us, at least. I mean that in an affectionate way.
Oh, of course. Back in the day, yeah, we were talking about it earlier. It's back in the days when you could go for a surf out at Kingscliff and there was like maybe 6 guys in the water.
Yeah, it was a magical time to go surfing back then.
It wasn't a popular sport at that particular point.
No,
really.
No. We used to, the only thing we used to really hate was weekends when we'd, scowl at the Brizzos, as we'd call them, that had come down.
Come down and invade the locals' territory.
Indeed, yeah. I have fond memories of being on the school bus coming over Sexton's Hill and waiting to see, what the wind looked like and if there was swell and, the afternoon surf after school was
I can remember waking up in the morning and looking out through the window to try and look through the gap between... Well, when I was really young, there was no gap between the buildings, but as I got older and the buildings started popping up on the hill at Kingscliff, because you were only 4 or 5 houses down the road, so you would have been able to see the surf from home, would you?
Or we could see the water, not actually the break, but we could see the ocean. But you could always tell what the wind was doing and you could sort of sense the swell to a degree.
Yeah.
We had a large collection of surfboards up the side of the house. It was, I think, half the hill used to leave their boards up the side of the house.
Small community.
Yeah,
Kingscliff,
pretty relaxed.
Back in those days.
Yeah. I always had a great time out there in the afternoon thinking, what'll I ride today?
Yeah, I remember buying my first surfboard off Kevin Barr, who used to live across near the school.
The primary school,
Yeah. And he used to do, I think, surfboard repairs and stuff like that. He was a kneeboarder.
He was, yeah. A very good one too.
Yeah. What got you into music in the first place?
I basically started as a young kid playing piano, as a lot of parents put their kids through, torturous classical piano. And I was doing okay, quite well with it, but I really wasn't into playing all the classical music. So I decided, I don't know exactly where it came from, decided though that I thought drums would be more exciting. And so I announced at home that I wanted to buy a drum kit. And I can distinctly remember my father saying, well, if you want a drum kit, you'll have to go and, buy it yourself. So I did. Basically. They helped a little. They gave me a little bit of like Christmas money and that sort of stuff. I actually spent school holidays at the end of one of the years working at the ambulance station, laying the bingo tickets out.
I remember that down in the front street there. Yeah.
I put all that towards buying the drum kit.
Wow.
And that's a story in itself too, because I don't know if you remember the Prosser family.
Yeah.
They were close personal friends with Billy Hyde.
Oh, wow.
And so when they got wind that I was looking for a drum kit, they contacted Billy Hyde and they organised a kit for me that fitted the budget. And the story went, and I think it was correct, was that it was the drummer from Santana's practice kit.
Oh.
And they were actually touring at the time.
Wow.
And so I believed it. I was pretty excited. And then a few weeks after I had the kit at home set up, they rang us up and said, we wanted to drop down to the house. And they came down and Billy Hyde was with them. And he came into my bedroom and sat down and played the kit.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
So, that was pretty exciting as
Yeah.
well. I didn't really grasp it at that point, but later on in life, looking back at Billy Hyde's musical career and what he'd done, and he's more or less like the Gene Krupa of Australian Gene Krupa.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
It is pretty wild.
Yeah.
How did you get on with your parents with the amount of noise a drum kit made?
I was only allowed to hit the drums when the old man wasn't home, and I had towels or t-shirts or something over them to quieten them down. So yeah, it was pretty difficult at first, but then the kit wasn't at home all that long. Because I was good friends with Jeremy and Peter Oxley, and we'd been surfing mates for a while. Jeremy and I used to hang out at times, different times, sleepovers and all that sort of stuff, and get up and go surfing and what have you. And after a few weeks at home, they were saying, "Oh, you got a drum kit? We're learning to play guitar, so bring it up the house and we'll have a jam, man." I go, "Yeah, okay." So the kit went up to McPhail Avenue, into the rumpus room there, and then it was Eric, their father, that was always on about the volume.
Just a quick interruption to say thank you for watching the podcast. Please hit the subscribe button. It's very early days for us and we're trying to grow things, and you can help. Please share, hit the subscribe button. It makes a massive difference. Thank you very much. That was a big household.
Yeah, they've all had touches with the music industry as well.
They all have, yeah. You're jamming at the Oxley House in McPhail Avenue. Where does that lead to?
That led to...
You had a band called Wooden Horse?
Yeah, that led to the first band ever for Jeremy, Pete and myself. Yeah, Wooden Horse.
Wooden Horse.
Yeah.
And was that doing covers or originals?
It was doing both.
Oh, okay.
That sort of started out, the first song I ever remember playing was actually an original of Jeremy's, and probably one of the first songs he'd ever written, I guess. But under the house up there, we learnt a few, probably about half a dozen originals, and then we started to add a few covers, and we got to the point where we thought we were good enough to play, to try and perform somehow. You'd know Vic Manuel and Chris Willoughby, and so we were all like to go and see Mirkwood and Stockade. I don't know if you ever saw those bands.
I didn't actually. I was probably be a little bit young.
Yep, just missed it.
Yeah. I did see Vic a lot later on.
Yep.
And I've had Vic in the studio actually with Chris Willoughby and stuff. So
nice.
yeah. But I didn't get to see them when I went in that era because I was probably a bit young back then.
Yeah. Well, we used to see them. They used to often do the high school formals and stuff like that too. And we'd, if you could sort of get out, you'd go and, because they'd play halls, in those days there was no
I remember doing Yukai Hall and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was always a dance or a Saturday dance at the local hall.
Yeah. They were great fun. So we got wind that Mirkwood were doing the next school social at Tweed River High, and so we hit Vic up to let us get up and do, I can't remember now, 4 or 5 songs in between when they were having a break.
Yep.
And so he came over to the, he was living just sort of a block away from McPhail Avenue. He came over and sat in on a rehearsal. And
so there was a lot of music happening around Kingscliff.
Yeah. He said, yeah, come and play the break. So we did, and that's how it started.
Okay, and that was Wooden Horse.
Yeah.
So how long did that last for?
I don't know.
I can remember seeing the posters up on the toilet block next to the surf club.
Yeah.
With Wooden Horse performing in
the Amenities Hall. We played there a lot.
Yeah.
And Cabarita Hotel.
Ah, yeah.
And we were all underage, and we had a residency at Cabarita Hotel.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, they were funny days, yeah.
I mean, yeah, well, I remember being a young teenager and not being able to get into pubs and the band playing on a Sunday afternoon down at the Kingy pub, and you could sit out on the steps out at the back of the house and listen to the band playing at the pub, and you ride the pushy down and watch the band play from the street because you couldn't go in because you're underage.
Yeah.
That was a really, I think, a formative thing for me, being able to hear and see a band play live at that young age.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just an interesting thing to stand outside the beer garden and watch the antics of drunk people on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, getting into music though, that's, back in those days, my mother and father used to be a member of the record club, and where you'd order an LP come in the mail and that sort of thing. And so I sort of cottoned onto that and bought my first couple of albums.
So what sort of music were you into at that age?
I was listening to, the first album I ever bought was Sgt. Pepper's.
Oh, wow, I remember that.
Yeah. So Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, Neil Young, Beatles, Stones, Cream, Hendrix, all that sort of stuff.
Oh, wow.
Listened to. I even had snuck in a few Black Sabbath records and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I remember there was a mate I went to school with. His older brother was heavily into playing guitar, and I remember him bringing, when Machine Head first came out, by Deep Purple.
Yeah.
And that was like, oh, wow, But that was a part of the surfing community culture too. There's the music everyone was into.
Yeah.
That was because the music was a large part of that culture.
It was. Pretty much all the bands I just mentioned, I think, came from... That was who, the surfing hang that used to be next to the surf club there. We used to have the cubicles and what have you, and all the surfers used to hang there and leave your towel and all your stuff. And that was sort of, where you sort of discovered the musical things that other people, those guys were listening to.
Because I do remember a lot of the influences that I had musically came from other people from Kingscliff, from other people that you met through surfing.
I think we were a little bit sheltered though there in my time, certainly, with what we were listening to. After moving to Sydney and exploring and discovering the music scene in inner Sydney, and the world sort of just opened up. Yeah, it was a hell of a lot of stuff that I didn't know existed.
The move to Sydney, was that about university?
For me, it was for a job working for an oil company.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And for the Oxleys, they both were, going to college and uni. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was like quite circumstantial that you happened to move to Sydney as well, or was that something that you wanted to do? Or
I wanted to get out of Kingscliff at the time. I think I was ready for a change after 18 years of school. I was working casually straight after school, so I didn't sort of have much of a break. And then the opportunity arose for this job in Sydney, and I took it and went, basically.
And so you guys obviously stayed in touch?
Yeah, not really. Not really initially. When I got down to Sydney, I was staying with my sister for the first few months, and my mother actually phoned, or whatever it was back in the day. There was no email. That Peter was down in Sydney, and Jan, Pete's mum, had given the details or a phone number, and I called him up, and he was actually living in the city, and said to me, I'm going to see all these wild bands, blah, 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 come over on the weekend, Friday night at the Civic Hotel. I'll be there seeing Lipstick Killers, and, check it out. So I went over and saw him and watched the band, and it was actually Kim Giddy was in Lipstick Killers at the time. Don't know if you know that name.
No, I don't.
He lived in Kingscliff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's Wollumbar boy.
Ah.
Yeah. So, I met up with Peter. Jeremy was still up finishing school at that time. And so Peter was in, or about to launch into a band by the name of Cheyenne Posters. that had Richard Bergman in it.
Oh, okay.
From Sunnyboys. And, basically I had my kit with me and I was looking around and I sort of spent a little while just going out on weekends and getting to experience the inner Sydney music scene, which was just
quite
awesome.
vibrant. Yeah, it's pretty. I'd imagine back then it would have been massively vibrant because that would have been what, early 80s?
Very late 70s, very early 80s. Yeah, 79 into 80.
Yeah.
We used to get the.
Because I remember I was still in. I think I was in my last year of high school. It would have been 81 or 81 when the first Sunnyboys single came out.
Yeah, that'd be
Is that right?
Yeah, that'd be about right. Yeah. 1980, August 1980, we played our first show
as the Sunnyboys, and obviously by that stage Jeremy had moved down. So did you get to play with other people in Sydney before the Sunnyboys?
Yeah, I was in a band. I met a few people in the inner city music scene, and I moved into a share house in Camperdown with a couple of people. Mm-hmm. Two of which were actually from Wollumbar.
Oh wow!
And they both spent time in the band Lipstick Killers again as well. So
okay.
That's Michael Charles, who you might have heard of. He's played around. He lives up.
Okay.
Coolangatta.
Yep.
He's played in a lot of bands over the years. Screaming Tribesmen.
Oh, okay. Yep.
He still has played with Mick Magew up until fairly recently, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. And I ended up getting into a band with a couple of the Moolumbar fellas and a Sydney guy, and we were called the Playboy Lords.
The Playboy Lords.
Yes. And Jeremy, in the meantime, moved down. We were gigging, and Peter's band Shine Posters had been gigging. Lipstick Killers went off the road and had some kerfuffle with their drummer and decided they needed a new drummer. And they approached Michael from Shine Posters, Michael Charles, and he decided that he thought Lipstick Killers was a better fit for him. Mm-hmm. So he took that role and Shine Posters disbanded. Right at the time, Jeremy entered the scene and basically there was a meeting had, and I think it was at the Century Hotel on George Street in the city.
Oh, wow.
If my memory serves me correctly, over a beer. Jeremy was keen to, because he'd been in the Strand up here, as you probably would have seen the Strand.
Yeah, the Strand, that's right. I remember that now.
Yeah. I remember him saying, I think there's a little gap in the scene here for the sort of stuff I'm writing, so I think we could be a good band. Do you want to leave Playboy Lords and, come and be the drummer, and we'll have, Peter on bass and Richard from Shine Posters. And it's like, yeah, okay, that sounds like a pretty fair idea. So.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you had a good experience playing in that arrangement before.
Yes and no. I had, but
I guess the two brothers would have been that interesting dynamic.
Yeah, so I quit Wooden Horse and that sort of disbanded back when that fell apart, and they went on and formed other bands and continued. I took a bit of a break and just surfed and finished high school, and then moved to Sydney, and then pick up again where I've just sort of come in. So, it was just the typical sort of situation where, band arguments or something you disagree with and you spit the dummy and you move in a different direction, sometimes. Yeah. That's what happens.
Yeah.
I had that experience already, having played with them, so it seemed at the time.
And you knew the dynamic, I guess, of what you were getting into.
Exactly. I exactly knew. So I had that decision to make, but I sort of realised that it was a promising option, or I thought that we could be a good band and do quite well. Thinking at the time, I'm thinking quite well in the small radius in the inner city.
We're going to do a bunch of gigs and life's going to be good.
We'll get some people along, it'll be great. We'll actually have a crowd to play to.
Yeah.
So it turned out we did. Yeah.
So how did things develop from there? Obviously, you have the meeting and you say at some point recording becomes a part of that.
We were rehearsing in a place, a rehearsal room building in Day Street. At the time, the building would be long gone now, but it was a pretty rough and ready sort of thrown together old warehouse with, lots of broken crap everywhere and what have you, but PAs in rooms and 3 or 4 rooms, and we'd turn up there to rehearse. And one day, this funny story. I have to go slightly off. The other member that I've omitted from the conversation that actually joined the band right at the start was Rob Younger from Radio Birdman.
Oh, wow.
He was on lead vocal at the start.
At the start?
Yeah. And he didn't, he never performed live with us. We rehearsed, I can't remember how many times. We were doing Jeremy's songs and Rob's songs, and which a lot of went on to become New Christ's material.
Okay.
But basically, it was good, but it wasn't quite a fit, and Rob knew it. And so he basically said, look, you guys don't need me, you're fine. Jeremy's got a beautiful voice, just go that way. So that happened. That was an interesting side note.
Yeah.
And we're rehearsing away one day, and this older fellow comes into the room, and he's having a chat with us, and I think Peter said to me, or later on, you know who that guy is, don't you? And nah, and he's going, that's Lobby Lloyd.
Oh, because he produced the first album.
Yeah, well, actually the first EP too.
First EP too, yeah.
So he was, him and an acquaintance were running the rehearsal rooms. It was their little gig.
Yep.
And anyway, he was just really took a shine to Jeremy's guitar playing and just thought he had a very unique style, and thought the band was good, loved what he was hearing, and basically we talked to him about recording, and he took us off to Trafalgar Studios in Annandale, I think it is, and we recorded that first EP with Robbie. Yeah, Alone With You's on it.
Oh, Alone With
You's on it. But it's a different version to the single that came out later.
Yeah. So you re-recorded that later.
Yeah. There wasn't really a single off it at the time. It was just an EP. Yeah.
Okay.
It's just an introduction to the band, basically. Yeah.
When you recorded that stuff with Lobby Lloyd, was that via a contract, or was that just an independent thing prior to getting a contract, or?
It was an independent thing. We didn't have a recording deal, but we Peter had met up with a couple of people, Phantom Records, basically.
Okay.
Jules Normington and Dare Jennings were owners of the record shop, Phantom Records. Jules ran the shop, and Dare was basically the partner, the silent partner as it goes. Dare later became, he started and ran Mambo, 100% Mambo.
Oh, okay. Reg Bombassa.
Yeah, we're all Reg did art for Dare, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Dare now is Deus Ex Machina. So he's just still going.
He's still going, yeah.
Yeah. So they had put out a few little singles and stuff of indie bands. Mm-hmm. So Jules is a mad music nut, and Dare has always really loved the independent music scene as well. So they'd put out a few of the bands in the city. Shy Imposters had a single on Phantom before Sunnyboys release.
Yeah.
There was probably half a dozen, 6 or 8 single releases on Phantom before we came along, and then they were interested in putting out something from us, and it sort of fell together with Lobby, and we recorded the EP and came out on Phantom. They pressed 1,000 and they were gone within like a week or 2 weeks something from memory. Yeah, they sold pretty quick and had to go back into second press. So
that's awesome.
It was super exciting at the time.
So, by the time you'd done that, had the band had much of a live following by then? Yeah,
we started to do little shows, mostly with supports to other...
Touring acts and stuff?
Well, mostly just in the inner city. Literally, I was going to say earlier, I used to get the Sydney Morning Herald on a Friday and pull out this blue guide, which was literally blue newspaper section, so it was easy to find, and it was the gig guide, and you could go through and you just get a pen and go, I'm going to go to there, I'll look at the time of that, I'll go to there, and then you go Friday night, right, I got 6 venues to go to, 6 bands to see, or, you know.
Wow.
Saturday night there might be 2 but that you want to see. There was this long list of things to do. There seemed to be music in every second pub that you'd walk around.
Yeah.
So, you know.
I mean, it was like that in particularly the early 80s.
Yeah.
Particularly the early 80s. It was a very vibrant scene.
Yeah. So it was relatively easy to get a gig somewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
And you could also, you know, the established bands that were around that we were sort of getting to know, you could piggyback and get a support and what have you. Didn't take us very long, and we were able to play our own little shows at a small pub and what have you, and it just seemed to sort of just explode really quickly. We were filling them, you know, 50, 100 capacity, and they'd be chock-a-block and couldn't.
Is that what garnered interest from a label, or how did that come about?
I think that, as well as Lobby's associate. Lobby knew Michael Gudinski quite well. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure there were phone calls from Lobby saying, you got to check this band out, Michael.
Done the EP.
Concentrate. Come to Sydney and look at these guys.
I guess it would have helped that the EP went out and then sold out so quickly, and then it had to get repressed. That would have sent a signal that was something there.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So it's all a bit of a blur, to be honest. It all happened so quickly, and it was in a very short space of time, and then it was over.
Like, it's an interesting thing that I've found with a lot of, particularly older musos who signed contracts when they were young, didn't have any legal advice at all. Is that a similar story to what was going on with you guys?
Of course.
So it's like, it's a recording contract, sign here.
Yeah.
Don't get any advice from anyone.
Yeah, pretty much. I think in your early 20s, you think you've reached adulthood, and you sort of have in some ways, but you sort of have the attitude that you know that it'll be fine. We know what we're doing, and la da da da. You know.
The Sunnyboys had quite a lot of success. Would seemingly have a lot of success. Was it financially a good thing for you at the time?
No.
I do seem to remember reading somewhere, I don't know whether it was a quote from Peter or years had gone by, the band had reformed, and obviously, you know, there's some issues with Jeremy and stuff, but you were out playing gigs again after having a hiatus for a lot of years. And one of the quotes that Peter was saying was like, finally we can go out and actually make some money.
Yeah. Look, in the 4 years that the band was together initially, we left it up to the management really. Lobby managed us for quite a while, and not any sort of disrespect to Lobby. He was in a way a dreamer of a business person. Without the business sort of thing happening there, I think he let us do what we wanted to do, and we got a little bit out of control, meaning things weren't held to budgets. We spent too much money on equipment hire. In 1982, for the individuals tour, we took out way more equipment than we needed, and it spent half the tours of 82 sitting in the half it in the truck.
Oh,
know?
wow.
It's like we had a crew of like 7, and all that's where all the money went.
Yeah.
And in the venues where it was 2 double 4-ways basically, and if it had fit,
because it was the days of massive PAs.
Yeah, we did some fantastic looking shows too. Where we had the backdrops and the big light show and the big PA, and it was a great show. But we paid for it basically. So not that I think we would have made a fortune out of it, but we would have made something. it could have been, you know, a much more comfortable existence. basically.
Yeah. Did you have any songwriting credits with the Sunnyboys?
No. I never really got into doing any songwriting until, I don't know, about 2005.
Okay.
Just sort of tinkering away at home. Yep.
Sunnyboys, so that lasted about 4 years,
Yep.
and it was 2 albums, wasn't it?
Three. Yep. 3 studio and a live, and then the band.
The
split
live
up.
one.
Yep. We did the third studio album in Surrey in London,
Oh, okay.
England. Yep.
That would have been an interesting experience.
It was, yeah. Yep, there's a few stories there too.
What took you over to London? I guess the record company thought you might have some success overseas?
No, not really. By that stage, the record company were, as long as we were recording an album to fulfil our commitment, they were happy. They pretty much, I think, at the time, they were done with us. They were on to the next thing. After the first couple of albums, it was tapering off.
Okay, the momentum was...
For them, at least, yeah. They were hoping...
Why go to Surrey?
We wanted to get out. We'd toured to death. We were exhausted. Lobby's answer to the debt was get them back out get back out and work. You've got to keep working, keep going out, which was led to the demise of the band, really. Jeremy burnt out.
Yeah.
I can remember at one point we used to do 6-week tours, 6 nights a week, and the day off was usually most often a travel day between somewhere or to the next mid-show. Like if you're in Melbourne, you might drive to Canberra on the day off and then play Canberra that next night, or sometimes overnight, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I remember at one point we did 6 weeks and we came back to Sydney and had a 2-week break, and then we went again.
Oh, wow.
And there seemed to be a lot of touring work, and it just, in the end, we needed a break. And we'd sort of been round and round and round and round Australia. We thought we needed to get out, so we were angling to get overseas to try and chop into new markets, or maybe do some shows, or we just had to go. So we ended up going to London and we had about 2 months off, just hanging in London, not doing anything. Actually, we played 3 shows. We played the Marquee and 100 Club.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was pretty excited to get to do those venues. Yeah. And the plan was in the 3rd month to move out to a live-in studio in Surrey and do the album. So we looked around for a producer, and off we went out there and recorded the 3rd record.
After that was done, come back to Australia?
Yeah, I there wasn't anything happening for us over there. There wasn't any nothing organised to try and do tours or stay or whatever. So it was basically head back to Sydney, and I think we had a little bit of time off and got ready to go and do some more shows to promote the record.
So how long after you got back was it before the split happened?
Geez, now you're testing my memory. Probably not that long. I think we did a tour or 2 for the Get Some Fun album, and then Jeremy had basically just said he'd had enough, and he was leaving the band, and it was
I guess
finishing.
With him gone, that's pretty much
it.
That's it.
And then so we had a break, and it was discussed that we needed to do a final tour. Just to say to the fans and what have you, say see ya.
We're calling it a day.
And just prior to that, Lobby had actually raised the white flag and sort of said, I can't do it. It's not working. I've been in touch with Michael Chugg, and he's prepared to take you on. So we actually changed management from Lobby to Michael Chugg managing us. And for quite a few tours, actually, before we got to that point.
Okay.
And or maybe one tour. I don't know. The memory's not quite there. Anyway, it was a much tighter ship with Michael. Things were sort of cut back to sensible levels, and we actually came out of the end of the last tour with a very small amount of change for our pocket and paid our debts off. So all in all, it was pretty good.
Yeah, I guess it's probably a good thing to walk away with no debt.
Yes.
Most normal people wouldn't necessarily realise the amounts of money involved in recording albums, doing video clips.
Yeah,
particularly back then.
Yep.
It was a very expensive exercise.
It was, yeah. Yeah, I seemed for some reason to have in my mind that for one of the albums the budget was like 30 grand or something, and which wasn't for the time a huge budget.
No,
by any
that's
means.
not a big budget at all.
These days, if you had 30, I think you could easily do an album for 30 grand, couldn't you?
Yeah. Well, particularly for a band that's well rehearsed and playing together all the time. I mean, realistically, you could punch out an album in a week.
Yeah.
If it's well rehearsed and all written. And I guess if you go into the studio and nothing's written and you're sitting in the studio writing the stuff, it can really drag out.
We were pretty fortunate in that way. There was most often plenty of material.
Because Jeremy was a prolific writer?
He seemed to write not quite as much as time went on, but yeah, there was we had a few extra tracks for Get Some Fun that have been released in the last few years as additional things on releases. And
things that were recorded that never got released?
That never got released initially, yeah.
Yeah.
Original material, yeah.
So you're not getting any of the songwriting royalties. Do you get part of the record sales mechanical royalties? Is that
Yeah, I still get mechanical royalties. Mushrooms these days that went to Warner, so yeah, I get Warner royalties 4 times a year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Yep.
Probably not a massive amount, I would imagine, but still.
They're due soon. I'm waiting for a haircut.
So, the band splits. What happens for you then?
I had a good 6 months of doing nothing, basically. Just hanging about, relaxing, trying to sort of, I don't know, take it all in. What just happened for the last 4 years?
Yeah.
It was a bit of a roller coaster ride. So all of a sudden, Tim Oxley says to me, you know what, aren't you going to do some work or whatever? And I'm going, yeah, I probably should get a job, I suppose. And he said, well, I'll talk to him down at Phantom, because the other arm of Phantom Records was they had a T-shirt printing business.
Ah.
And he worked down there, and Peter worked there as well.
Oh, okay.
As a hand printer. And so I went, I knew of it, but it had moved since I'd actually been to Phantom. It used to be in Surrey Hills, but it had moved. Anyway, he put in a word for me down there for a job in the store cage to go and unpack T-shirts all day. I went, oh yeah, okay, I'll go down and have a chat to the bloke. It was teed up, and anyway, I met this guy. Actually, became a lifelong friend. My boss, and I consider him a mentor to me.
Oh, okay.
He's still a very close friend and an awesome dude.
Yeah.
But he gave me a job as a storeman, and I worked there. And within probably 4 to 6 months, that business morphed into 100% Mambo.
Oh, wow.
And so that it became that label. And we worked in the T-shirt textile printing areas. Back in those days, there was no China, so all that work
stuff was
that's
produced
done
locally.
overseas was done here. So that place was doing 4 million prints a year.
Wow. That's a lot.
It was running, 2 shifts a day for 6-7 days a week. It was with automated machines, printing T-shirts. It was a sight to behold.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the funniest thing about it was, apart from the immigrants that were working on doing the hard process work on the machines, everyone else was like a retired musician or a broken down muso from the inner city. It was quite an hilarious place to work. I have to
Yeah,
say.
well, I imagine it would have been, like an interesting collection of people with an interesting collection of stories to tell.
Indeed, yeah. So I worked there for a while, and during that time, I worked there for about 10 years, really, worked my way into different positions. But during that time, Peter and I formed another band with Melanie.
Oh, okay, yep.
And I got stuck on this drift of playing with Oxleys.
Oxleys.
I don't know how that happened, but it just seemed to happen.
There was a lot of them.
Yeah. Anyway, so Sparklers formed in the mid to late 80s, and then we were off doing shows, did pretty well, did an album, had a deal with a little independent record label. That was going quite well. That sort of never really went over a certain level.
Yeah.
And
I guess this time round too, you would have had a lot more experience of the industry and been able to deal with the ups and downs of the industry a bit better than previously.
yeah, it was a different ride though. So we could have done with that experience back before the other one, because there was a lot of things that we should have done if we weren't so young and stupid. The first time round, we probably could have had a much better time, maybe even not broken up, not work so much, that sort of thing. So yeah, for Sparklers, we were probably a little bit more in the know. While we had a pretty strong following, we weren't getting
The same sort of
radio
thing that
airplay,
Sunnyboys,
and we weren't getting that same sort of
the same sort of level that Sunnyboys attained.
Yep.
Yeah.
And eventually, I sort of had enough too, so I resigned from that band. I think I'd played in that band for, maybe 4 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
There was a few minor lineup changes during that time, and I took a bit of a break after that. Quite a few times through my life, I've got to points where I've just sort of just
had enough,
had a break, time for a break.
Yeah.
Have a little rest for a year or two.
So you're still in Sydney. What other stuff did you do in Sydney before obviously moving back up to Queensland?
I stayed in the inner city. We used to live in the inner city and moved around the inner city. My wife and I, when we got married, we bought our first house in Newtown. I went to work at a friend of mine said, "Oh, do you want to join a band with Mark Taylor from the Lipstick Killers?" And he's looking to put a cover band, but Mark's heavily into 60s garage music, and he's a staunch collector of 45s and from the areas. I think he's like one of the top collectors, top 3, I think, in the world.
Oh, wow.
Of that sort of stuff. So a friend of mine, Stephen, that was working for Mark, Wollumbar boy, said, do you want to come and play a few of these 60s garage numbers, with Mark? And I went, oh, yeah, maybe. He said, I'll give you, a tape. You can see what you think. And I was going, okay. So he gave me a cassette, and I'm listening to that, and I'm thinking, years ago, all these people would say, Sunnyboys, 60s influence, la-da-da-da-da. And I'm listening to the garage, I'm going,
there it is.
That's where it's coming from.
Yeah.
It's these 2 guitar, bass and drums bands that doing these mad pop tunes.
Yeah.
So I said, I'll have a crack at that. Anyway, I ended up going to, Mark had a business with his parents, quite a sizable business. I ended up going to work there, and while I was in the band with him, and that turned out really, really well. And that band was called Dr. Stone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We didn't do many shows. It was just sort of, we rehearsed a lot. We released an EP, self-released EP, and which was originals of Mark's, because he wrote quite a lot of music, but most of the set in that band was 60s garage covers. Yeah. But really obscure stuff that you wouldn't pick.
So people wouldn't know whether they're original or covers anyway, really.
Yeah,
It was
exactly.
But stylistically, the band had that style, was playing that style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the most fun bands I've been in was that one, even though we didn't get to play that much live. I've rehearsed a lot. I think I was playing probably really well at that point for having rehearsed so much. Yeah, I really enjoyed the material, actually, I have to say. So I'm still a fan of the 60s garage, still play quite a lot of it at home.
What prompted the move back to Queensland?
Just sort of had enough of the city, really. Just got to the point where I was didn't feel like the job was doing me justice. My wife and I had a daughter, Lulu, and sort of thought it'd be nice to bring up kids in a country environment, more sort of relaxed. So we decided to start looking. We looked and looked and looked up and down the coast, and it just seemed to make sense at the time to go back to Kingscliff. So
Yeah.
we did that move.
So when would that have been? What year was Kingscliff?
That was like
Before the Kingscliff boom?
98, 99, I think, from memory.
Trying to think. When Mum and Dad sold their place, they got a fortune for it. I was just thinking, it's like, I don't know how anyone can afford to live in Kingscliff anymore.
We actually, our first place we bought was actually in Fingal.
Ah.
And we were there for a year or two, and we sold that. We did quite well out of the sale, but within about 12 months, if we'd have stayed another 12 months, I think we would have done really well.
Prices through that whole area have just gone phenomenally
Amazing.
through the roof.
Yeah. So we bought in Kingscliff, and we were there for, up until about 2015, 2015. Yeah.
Okay, and then up to Tambourine.
Yeah.
Tamborine's a nice spot.
Yeah.
I guess the difficulty there is just getting on and off the mountain.
Yeah. We're on the south side, so we're it's not too bad.
Down Henry Roberts Drive.
Yeah, sort of around the top of it there somewhere.
Yeah.
It's probably 25 minutes to Harbour Town.
Oh, okay, so that's not too bad.
It's not too bad.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
And I guess at least when you're up on the mountain, you're not having to deal with all of the traffic and stuff like we are here in Burleigh. It's like, oh man, it can take me half an hour just to get to the highway.
Yeah,
I could walk faster to get there.
Yeah, I always refer to it as the slow way. Get on the slow way and sit in traffic.
Oh, it's just become unbearable. It's that post-COVID thing. All of the people from Sydney and Melbourne have moved up.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the population's gone through the roof and the infrastructure doesn't support it.
Yep.
Yeah, so you've got a music room at home.
Yep.
What do you do with that?
Kill time, basically. When I use it, I haven't been for the last. Sunnyboys finished early last year.
Okay, because obviously there was a reformation and you did a few tours and stuff.
Yeah.
And that was obviously a little bit problematic because Jeremy's not in a good place.
He's actually in a pretty good place. He's dealing with his illness, yeah. So his capabilities are, he can still play guitar well, but his health's not as
great.
good as it used to be. I think it's fair to say toward the end, 18 months, 2 years back, it was me that sort of said, I've had enough. I think it's time for us to
draw a line in the sand.
Yeah, because I'd always said, I think it's been great. We're doing well, selling out shows still after all this time, and we've achieved a lot in the last decade.
It must have been a really wonderful thing to be able to come back and play after so many years apart.
Yeah, it was a surprise that there was so many fans still keen. So it was fantastic. Jay's not creative anymore, so there wasn't any new material to do. So we're basically coming out each year and just touring the same show, more or less the same show, which you can do for a while, and we did. We need to finish on a high. And, for me, plus I think as we were discussing earlier, the age as well, I can't play that fast anymore.
Yeah, because a lot of that stuff was really fast.
It's a 16th on the hats. It's just like, my God. I'd rehearse to the records, because we'd go out once a year for the last 10 years, and we'd do 6-8 shows or whatever, and I'd start having a hit on the kit at home in the music room about 3 months before, and I'd put the CDs on and the cans and then start to play along to myself, and I'd be going, I can't keep up, and I start stressing out. I walk downstairs and say to the wife, I can't keep up. The songs are too fast. It's getting really worried, And by about 3 or 4 weeks in to rehearsals, I'd be going up and having a hit 3, 4, 5 times a week, and some weeks more, and then all of a sudden I'd be going, I'm starting to keep up with the recording, If I was playing blues, it'd be all right.
Yeah.
It's much slower and easier. I could cruise along doing something like that all day.
You do that thing where you used to do reimagined versions of Sunnyboys songs.
Yeah.
And give something new and different for the fans to listen to.
Yeah, true.
Rather than a cover band reimagining them, just the Sunnyboys reimagining their own songs.
Yeah, well, it's the acoustic, isn't it?
Yeah, acoustic versions.
That was the flavour for a while there. It was
for a while.
Yeah. So, I have a music room at home. I have 2 great passions. One is music and the other is classic Ford cars.
Ah.
So I'm a closet rev head, basically.
And, you get it and do the mechanical work yourself?
Yeah, I'm rebuilding a car at the moment. So I haven't really been indulging in anything musically for the last 18 months.
So you started out with playing piano, doing classical lessons and stuff. Is that something the skill that you still managed to maintain?
Yeah.
Could you still play a piano?
Tiny little bit, yeah. I do. If I record stuff at home, and I think there's a piano part there, I'll figure it out and then learn it and get it fluent and then record it. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So that can take days.
Do you have a piano at home, or is it just electronic keyboard?
I just have an electronic. What is it? A P105 or something? Yeah, electric.
But
piano.
You've got access to one, so you can do that.
Oh yeah. I've got the piano in the music room. Yeah, we used to have an upright for many years. We carted it around. When we left Kingscliff, I was like,
They're a big thing to lug around.
Yeah, it was getting too old, needed new felts and all that sort of stuff. It was like, I don't think we're going to move this to tambourine. So, yeah, we lost that. So the music room's got kits, I've got guitars. I like to dabble with a little bit of everything. I'm certainly not a guitar player. Could be if I buckled down and rehearsed and played, but I get...
Australia's version of Dave Grohl.
Yeah, no, nothing like nowhere near that sort of not that level, that's for sure. But enjoy it. I enjoy picking it up when I'm in the flavour of the moment, sort of thing. Yeah. So
I guess that's one of the things. Are you enjoying what you're doing?
You're having a good time.
Having a good time. I guess that's when you started out playing. That's what it was all about. I mean, that's what it was for me. It was like I'm really having fun doing this. I want to do it more.
Yeah, absolutely. I think also there's probably 2 types of talent. There's people that are super proficient with their instrument or whatever they're performing, and then there's people that have just got some sort of little gift, that
X factor.
Like say Johnny Cash comes to mind, that voice, and
there's something special there.
There's something special there that you can't quite put your finger on. But, you get a specific person on an instrument that's just like they make it their own, And
would you say that Jeremy was one of those people?
He's a pretty gifted fellow, I think. Yeah, he pretty much did very well at anything he put his mind to. Yeah. Like surfing, he was
really good.
Really good surfer. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember like Melanie was a very intelligent person at school.
Yep.
So I guess that would have translated through Sparklers.
Yep.
And stuff.
Yes, indeed. She wrote all the Sparklers material.
So is your daughter involved in music?
No, she isn't. And I have a son as well. He's living in Sydney.
Involved in music at all?
No, although he bought a drum kit. He didn't tell me, but he went and bought one. So I he was sort of hinted a year or two back that he was interested, maybe interested to, have a kit. And I started to send him marketplace kit.
Oh,
look,
yep.
this is a good one. Look how cheap this is. La, da, da. And one day he said, yeah, I got a kit. I'm like, oh, have you?
Okay.
Okay. But I don't know if he's using it or what he's doing. So he doesn't
As long as he's having
tell
fun.
us. So yeah, I think he is.
Is he doing? What's he doing in Sydney?
He's working in a hotel in the Rocks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Basically, he's like a supervisor, shift supervisor, I believe, there.
I guess there's still bands and stuff playing in that area.
I think there is. I think there's a bit of a music
Sydney's
scene.
changed so much.
It has, yeah. It's changed a real lot.
So Rocks was always one of those areas that had lots of entertainment.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm in the middle of one of my little breaks, but I'm starting to, at times I feel the itch again too. So there'll always be something sometime. I may get into another little band to just play the local pub or whatever, just something to keep the hand in, just a jam even or whatever. Yeah. So we actually did an album at home.
Yeah.
My wife and I did an album in the music room, just on Pro Tools, and I played. She and I played everything. So that was fun.
And she sings?
Yeah. She hasn't performed live, but she's got a really beautiful voice. I was tinkering away, recording material that I'd written, and bellowing like a whale, and coerced her into coming up and having a go. Years ago, and took some doing, but eventually I got her into the music room to do a bit of singing, and she enjoyed it, and we ended up putting together enough tracks to. It was like started out an EP, and then there was 5 tracks and 6 tracks, and then it was like, what the hell?
Got an album's worth.
Yeah, so we put that out ourselves, and that was fun.
Yeah.
So we might do a bit of that.
Yeah.
More, a bit more of that up to start.
Get out and take it out live.
Yeah, well, that'd be the intention. Actually, get some people to play with.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
That sounds like fun. Thank you very much, Bill. It's been
not a problem.
Pleasure having you down here today.
Thanks,
Long trek down from the mountain to come down.
Oh yeah, about it's not too bad. About 40, 45.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a bit of a hot day down here today too.
Yeah, it's a steamer.
It's a steamer in here. There's no aircon in the studio. Well, this part of the studio. Thank you for watching. I'll put links to stuff that Bill's done, a bit of Sunnyboys stuff, and I'll hopefully see you all on the next podcast.
Cheers.
Thanks, Bill.
Cheers.
Thanks, man.